So, while playing Ventures to power up my power level on Save the World, I happen to find out that Snowstrike, the hero that you get from doing the Hunt the Titan mission, is incredibly powerful, and that's mainly because of how much explosive damage she can do with her ability. If you guys don't know, she has the commander perk North Star, which makes her throwing stars freeze enemies in place instead of doing damage. But here's the real kicker. If you keep reading, it says that inflicting any melee damage causes the frozen husks to explode, dealing 167 water-based damage. And while yes, it is specifically water, the ability does not care. It'll do incredible damage to anything in its path, including husks that are supposed to be ineffective to water damage, like nature element husks. As you can see here, I'm going against water element husks, which is supposed to reduce my damage by around half. This means that explosive damage should be doing less than on a normal husk, but here, I completely wipe out an entire encampment with just a few swings. I am also doing this in a level 108 by myself. I have no support teams or anything boosting my power level at all. This build is incredible even at the end game like in Ventures 140 missions. But that's enough with hyping up this loadout. Let me show you how to build it, and with the Hunt the Titans mission still active, this means you can get her right now to help with your Ventures missions. So we are obviously going to start out with our commander selection, which is going to be Snowstrike. Her commander perk is, as stated, North Star. Reading the commander perk thoroughly, it says throwing stars freeze enemies for 4 seconds instead of dealing damage. Enemies frozen by North Star explode for 167 base water damage if they receive a melee damage or damage from another North Star explosion. Additional throwing stars effects and damage will be applied during North Star explosion. This alone is an amazing hero perk, but we need some support to make it viable since throwing stars cost around 20 energy and has a cooldown of 4 seconds. And in a fight, you want throwing stars to be back up immediately. So for the team perk, we're gonna go with Happy Holidays, which reduces your ability cooldown by 40%, which stacks up with other cooldown perks. Moving on, you need a melee weapon, which also means you will be in the middle of the swarm. So, to stay alive, I suggest using Monster Smash, which gives you Life Leech, healing you with every melee attack you deliver to the husks. Not only will this keep you alive, but with every husk you damage with North Star, you will heal up exponentially. Imagine going from like 1% of health all the way to 100% with just one swing. Technically speaking, you'll not die, but this will only work with large crowds. If you go against a Smasher or a Blaster all alone, it won't heal you much. Another choice if you don't have Arlene Iza is Survivalist Jonesy, who is a great pick who heals you for 39 base health for over 3 seconds, and the duration refreshes with every additional elimination, meaning the more you kill, the more you heal. And with the explosion working its magic, you'll be healing a lot. Next, we got Anatomy Lesson. Increases crit rating of swords, axes, and scythes. And I'm only using this due to being lucky enough to find a Stormblade in Ventures with the Explosive 6 perk. If you don't have a good enough sword for everyday attacking, you can replace this perk with Saurian Claws, which increases melee damage depending on how much health you have, or Assassination, which grants you around 22.5% increase of melee damage. Or, if you want to affect more husks with North Star, you can even switch out Anatomy Lessons with Fan of Stars, which lets you throw all your throwing stars out in an arc, plus gives you an additional star in your throw. You could technically hit 5 husks at once, freezing them and causing a huge explosion once you hit them with a melee weapon. As for the next perk, we got Battle Beats, which gives you Rockin' Riffs. This will increase your damage by 50% and melee attack speed by 32%. If you're gonna go up against a crowd of husks, having Rocking Rift while using North Star will increase your explosive damage and wipe out the biggest of baddies. As for the last 2 perks, we want to make sure that we also lower down the cooldown and energy consumption of our throwing stars, so we'll add Rapid Fire and Train Throw. This means we can use North Star almost immediately, making more and more explosions with this hero. Moving on to the demonstration, the video that I showed you before showed that I was in a 108 mission all alone, and I was still clearing out encampments with ease. This time, I'm joining a random team to do a 124 repair the shelter. Slightly more powerful, but this ability does not care. Over here, I find a little old storm chest, and as luck would have it, all the husks are fire-based, meaning that they will take incredible damage from Snowstrike's North Star ability. The great thing about this ability as well is that it can also stop many charging types of husks in their path, like takers or smashers during their charge. Mind you though, when they thaw out of that frozen prison, they still keep their momentum, meaning that they will keep charging, so keep attacking. But another fun thing I noticed is that when freezing an enemy, they don't break free when your teammates attack them. This means if you're facing against a large number of smashers or just a swarm of husks that can be dealt with North Star alone, your team can shoot the frozen husks without them breaking out. Do a little bit of extra damage before landing the finishing blow and causing the explosion. Still, with North Star, it's not always necessary, which is why it's best to use it on smashers who need to stay still and tick away at their health. Alright, so starting off on the mission, as you can see, we are doing the bare minimum regarding traps and such. Again, because this is Ventures and most of the time we don't have a lot of crafting materials to craft the necessary traps, but placing a few good ones like ceiling drop traps or electrical ceiling fields will activate Totally Rocking Out by eliminating a lot of the smaller and weaker husks. Keeping Totally Rocking Out active isn't essential, but it is definitely welcomed when dealing with larger swarms and your throwing star ability is on cooldown, so be mindful. So the one downside to this build is that it is not a mini boss killer. This ability will sadly not affect mini bosses, meaning they won't stand frozen in place when hit with North Star, or explode when hit with a melee weapon. The only way this will do significant damage is if it is surrounded by swarms of husks, each one frozen by North Star and then causing them to explode. Multiple explosions like that will take a big chunk out of the mini boss's health, but it is specifically circumstantial. If you have a great team with you, they could drop a slow field around the mini boss, or your constructor can push them into a crowd of husks with their bull rush ability, and that would work perfectly. But sometimes you don't have good teammates with you in Save the World, so you'll have to work with what you got. Thankfully, Save the World has a lot of great weapons like the Pop Shot or Storm King's Wrath that will do significant damage to mini bosses all on their own. One thing I definitely want to try is the second ability of North Star. We've been focusing on how the explosion happens when hit with a melee weapon, but if you look back at the description, it also says if you use North Star again. Meaning if you have two players who are using Snowstrike, then it'll be explosion after explosion with these two. One player throws the initial throwing star, preferably with something like Fan of Stars, which throws 5 stars at once in an arc, meaning you'll hit more husks that way, and have the other teammate throw their North Star, not only freezing more husks, but exploding the frozen ones, causing an immense explosion. One that probably will ruin your graphics card, but it will be worth it. It's something I want to try out and see for myself, but that'll have to wait until my channel grows and I have people in Save the World I can play with. Until then, I'm still having fun with this loadout. And that about does it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. This build is incredible and will work with every single Venture season. Right now, we have the escalation modifier, which causes explosions of different effects like dancing, affliction, freezing, and so on and so forth. But there are also other modifiers for different Venture seasons, like bouncy husks and treasure modifiers, the rage modifier, short range modifier, and super heroic modifier, all boosting your heroes in some way or another. With this Snowstrike build, you will never be without the means of destroying the husks even if you are underpowered in an overpowered level, like if you were power level 75 in a 140 zone. But other than that, if you guys enjoy this video, why not leave a like? And if you'd like to see more of these kinds of videos, why not drop a follow? Until then, as always, stay safe and game on!